professor and theologian. He says to be skeptical of the resultant New Testament text, the New Testament books, would be to allow all of classical antiquity to slip into obscurity, for no documents of the ancient period are as well tested bibliographically as the New Testament. Let me translate that. Let me translate that scholarly speak for you. Of all ancient documents, nothing that we have even begins to compare to the attestation, that is to say, the historical proof, evidence, whatever you want to call it, it's called attestation, that we have of the New Testament. There's nothing even begins. In fact, we have greater, this will sound insane to you, but trust me, we have greater attestation of the life and experience and ministry and death and resurrection of Jesus than we do of the writings of William Shakespeare, even though William Shakespeare lived some 1,400 years later than Jesus. It's astonishing, absolutely astonishing. Another quotation to this effect from Norman Geisler. He writes, philosopher, theologian, and author, "The New Testament is the most historically accurate and reliable document from all of antiquity. If one cannot trust the New Testament at this point, then one must reject all of ancient history, which rests on much weaker evidence." So both of these last two quotations are saying to us the same thing. How do we know that anything happened in the past? As soon as you get more than a single generation removed from any historical event, we are now relying on the authority of people who told us about those events. So take, for example, the American Civil War. Nobody is alive today that was present at the American Civil War. So how do we know what happened? We only know what happened by historical documents. And historians don't deal in proof so much as in corroboration and inconsistency. And they have a variety of historical criteria that they use to establish authenticity, veracity, inconsistency, etc. Okay? So that's how historians look at the past. We don't have a DeLorean, a la Back to the Future, that'll take us back so we can sit there, at the Gettysburg Address and see what Lincoln. We don't have that. That's not available to us. So what we have is letters, manuscripts, accounts that were written, sometimes by professional historians, but most often not, just by people writing down. And what both Geisler and the quotation before that, Montgomery, are saying is that we have greater attestation of the New Testament documents than any other ancient document, by far, no comparison. And so a fourth reason to believe that the Bible is what it claims to be is that there are very good manuscriptural and archaeological reasons to believe that this book is what it claims to be. Okay, final one here. The prophecies of the Bible are amazing and accurate. And I'm going to spend a lot of time over the course of our time here talking about the prophecies, but this will just be a brief overview. The first is Isaiah chapter 46, verses 9 and 10. Two verses, one from the Old, one from the New Testament. God says, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other." There's no other God. I alone am God. "I am God and there is none like me." Notice this. When God submits his resume, the thing that qualifies him to be God, he says, "I declare the end from the beginning," watch this, "and from ancient times," that is to say ancient history, "things that are not yet done," that is to say the future. Let me translate that for you. I can tell you the future. I can tell you not only what has happened, as an historian might do, or what is happening, as a journalist might do, but I am uniquely qualified as God to tell you what is going to happen, saying, "My counsel will stand and I will do all of my pleasure." Jesus articulated the same basic idea when he said, "Hey, listen, fellas," speaking to his disciples, "now I tell you before it comes." Before it comes. To what end? So that when it does come to pass, you may, and what's that next word there? You may believe that I am he. And here are just a few of the amazing biblical prophecies, some of which we'll look at here. First of all, the Old Testament is filled with prophecies and anticipations of Israel's, that is to say, the Jewish people's failure, their judgment, and ultimate captivity. Okay? There's prophecy after prophecy after prophecy that anticipates this, and those prophecies came to pass exactly as was anticipated, with Babylon, with Egypt, with Assyria, with Greece, and later with Rome. Okay? Then we have these marvelous, what are called apocalyptic prophecies in the Old Testament book of Daniel, and we're going to spend some specific time, I think it's next week, talking about Daniel chapters 2, 7, 8, and 9, and I've got some fresh material I'm looking forward to sharing with you on that. There are also dozens of what are called messianic prophecies. These are prophecies that anticipated and introduced the Messiah, Jesus. And very specific, and I'll talk about this as well. I'll give you some amazing statistics about the chances, the probability of a single man fulfilling all of these various prophecies that have been given by various prophets and poets throughout the better part of 1,000 years about what Messiah would do, where he would be born, under what circumstances he would live, under what circumstances he would die, etc. It's absolutely remarkable. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit here about some of the end-time prophecies of Revelation. Here's the short version of what I'm saying. The Bible accurately has foretold what would come to pass, but many of those things are ancient to us now, but at the time they weren't. And the Bible, even today in 2015, announces and advertises things that will yet come to pass. And I'm going to share with you some specifics on those things that I think you'll find very interesting. So to review, number one, the story is utterly compelling. Number two, the story is experientially persuasive, particularly with regards to both external conflict around us and internal conflict within us. Number three, Jesus is the most influential human being in all of human history for good reason. This is not a subjective statement that David Asscherick is making. This is now a quantitative statement, rather, that can be made definitively in the advent of modern technology. And then number three, the manuscripts are reliable. Or number four, the manuscripts are reliable. Number five, the end-time prophecies of Scripture. So these are 5 good reasons why you should believe the Bible. Okay? All right. Jamie, you going to come up and say a few words, or should I just tell them we're done? Okay, we're done. We're not done, but we're done-ish. And so, not Danish, done-ish. So you can go out there, wander around, stretch, do whatever you're going to do. How long before we're back in here? 10 minutes. 10. Look at how generous we are. 10 minutes. And then I'm going to give you 5 good reasons not to be religious.
Was lost